Okay, so in this video I want to talk about Mencius. We're still talking about Confucianism because Mencius was a interpreter of Confucius and of Confucius's sayings and stuff like that. But Mencius also had his own work, which was conveniently called the Mencius. um, so Mencius had, he still observed the virtues of land of Li and Yi and Ren and Haoshui. He still and also Tian. He observed those things and had like the basic skeleton of the whole, the basic the basic schematic or the basic skeleton of Confucius's whole system. However, he had his own take on it, and he also introduced one thing called the heart mind, and also the four sprouts or the four beginnings, which I will get to. Um, First of all, he did have a different idea of heaven or Tian. He had the idea of Shangti or Lord on high, and how, but it is still the case that Shangti or and Tian are synonymous things. How Tian can mean also sky, nature, and spirits, and a lord, but and Shangti most directly refers to the Lord on high, but they are synonymous things. Um, and Shangti or the Lord on high gave the first Chinese text, which were transcribed on animal bones. They were the first things according to them. And Tian or was kind of like, and this is where the whole Tianming or mandate of heaven was kind of put into place. Mencius had that idea. Tian is the ultimate source of legislative and moral and political authority. Confucius didn't say that as much. Confucius said that Tian indirectly communicated with you, but that but that there was a absolute source of legislative, moral, and political authority, but it wasn't as much in this absolute way. I would say, um, you know, but for Confucius, things changed through time and through dynasties. Where with Mencius, what Tian said, well, it's hard to explain. It's because for both of them, the legislative, moral, and political authority that Tian had was a unshakable, unbreakable thing. But I guess the way I would understand it is that Mencius viewed the place of Tian and Shangti as more of a direct way. Still kind of indirect, but still more direct than Confucius had. Confucius had Tian as a absolute thing, but it was more of an indirect thing. It's more of an indirect communication with people, humans. Um, Tian doesn't speak; it reveals. So, and that's Tian meaning or mandate or mandate of heaven would reveal what the who has the right to rule, which sage king has the right to rule. Um, so there are there are three things that Confucius and Mencius have in common. One, they think that Tian aligns with moral goodness and is absolutely in that fact. Second, that Tian that it depends on human agents to actualize its will. So in a way, it's still a Tian does things indirectly, and humans are free will agents which actualize the will of Tian. Third, that variable nature of its associations with moral actions. So I guess I'm trying to explain like how the two how Confucius and Mencius are different here. The only difference I would say would be that it it seems to me that for that Tien doesn't that Tien has more of a backseat-ish thing, is more of a backseat to Confucius than it is to Mencius, but that could be even still misconstruing it. Mencius still observed Ren E or Li Ren E, and he also had the virtue of Shi or wisdom, and also Shang, which is sagehood, which I haven't discussed yet, and also Hao Shui or self cultivation. For Mencius, Tien has a role in carrying the will, in carrying his will, in carrying their will out in government. Tien reveals who has the right to power, which king or which ruler. Tien decides and Tien reveals, and they were sage kings, people who had achieved that Ren and were sages, and Tien would reveal who had the right to rule. That's the mandate of heaven. So for Mencius, we have a benevolent monarchy or benevolent dictatorship, where we have this ruler, even though it is a benevolent place, it is a benevolent government. For Mencius, human nature is inherently good, and thus here we have the heart mind, and we have the four sprouts. Heart mind is something that was kind of carried on into Neo-Confucianism also. Heart mind is the feels for others. It's basically what that is, and that it's feeling what counts. That your heart mind feeling for others and feeling something is what counts. And if one develops the four sprouts, or the four qualities of the heart mind, then he can protect and serve the whole world. So we have four qualities of the heart mind. The heart mind is just something that feels, and thus with that capacity to feel, can protect and serve anybody if they develop the four sprouts, or the four beginnings. The four qualities of the heart man. The first one is sympathy, thus Ren, humaneness, which is the sprout of co-humanity, and the heart mind has to develop that sprout of co-humanity. Secondly, we have the quality of shame, or righteousness. You have the sprout of rightness, or righteousness. You can cultivate and develop that sprout and develop that. Third, you have the quality of defiance, or Li, which is the sprout of ritual propriety, and that defers to others. No, it's deference is what it is. Spirit, or the quality of deference, spiritual ritual prosperity. Thus, you defer to others, in that you defer to whatever norms others have put in place, and also the feelings of others too. Fourth, you have judgment, or Shi. Then we have the sprout of wisdom. If you develop these things, these four sprouts, if you develop these things, then you can protect and serve the whole world. And through this, you become a human being via becoming really human, and that's via the Ren part of it. And in a way, this is ethical naturalism. This is ethical naturalism in that there is absolute. There's absolute legislative, moral, and political authority via Tian and Shangdi, or Shangde is what it is. So in that way, that Tian or Shangde has that is the absolute standard of morality, and that's where the morality is, and that it is absolute. And through the virtues that those or through the virtues that Tian acknowledges, or via Ren, Yi, Li, and Shi, you can develop, into being a sage. You can develop towards achieving Ren and being a human via being really human. So Mencius had a very similar way of going about it, but the four sprouts and the heart mind was something that was applied into Neo-Confucianism, and that is a very important thing. That's why I wanted to kind of discuss that, and I wanted to discuss Mencius, because and that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, Mencius is only slightly different from Confucius, and Mencius has more of a in what I would say is more of a more of leaning on this idea of Tian or Shangde. And I feel like they both believe this. They both believe the same thing, except for maybe the Tianming, or the Mandate of Heaven. So they believe the same thing about what Tian is, but I think that Confucius has a more indirect, and it's more I don't know. I would say that the main basic differences between Confucius and Mencius is the whole heart mind and the four sprouts. There's not as much of a central feeling mechanism of the heart mind in Confucius's teaching as there is in Mencius. So I can go on talking about this forever. Let me know below if you think I left something out, or misconstrued something, or said something wrong. Right down there, tell me. Or if you have a question, if you want to discuss this more, if you want me to make a video explaining one certain thing, also comment below. Thank you.